As we get ready for 2023 bowl season, there are a couple players who won't be joining us to talk about their path to the draft here on today's episode, as well as some transfer portal updates and signing day. Are you excited? I know we are.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hold on, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere you listen. We are always here to talk to our YouTube community. We love it when you talk to us because we certainly talk back. So make sure you click that subscribe button. On today's episode, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. As we all know, that FanDuel is where we make a whole lot of dough. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Kenton Gibbs joining the show from Locked On Wolfpack, and boy, oh boy, does he have some exciting things to talk about from the football front today. It was not an easy episode to do without you, but made it through. Hopefully never have to do that one by myself again. Yeah, it was tough.
Well, I'm here for you always, Candace. If you need me for an episode, I'll be there for you. Our schedules just kind of, did a bang-up job of meshing together for that last episode. But on this one, I had to come back. I had to come back because I couldn't let a day go by where we're looking at so many players from Florida State opting out, but not just Florida State, kind of a bunch of different schools. And, of course, we got to have that conversation of, do bowls even matter anymore? Because they used to mean so much, and now it's a very different world we live in. But, I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, as they say. So I'm going to let you do your thing and kick it off.
So we all knew the inevitable, right? We knew that Florida State not being a part of the college football playoff was certainly going to turn heads for the group. It was going to make for a tough conversation with some in that locker room. But ultimately, you say to yourself, do I want to go past the draft, or do I want to stay and play this game? Do I want to play Georgia? Do I want to get ready for my next level that I know is the next level? I only came back to play a college football playoff championship opportunity, and that didn't happen. So Jared Verse, Trey, Benson, Fabian, Lovett Sr., just among the few that declared for the draft, foregoing opportunities to play in the bowl game against Georgia in the, I don't even know what it's called, bowl. It's New Year's Six, but I don't even know
it's
the bowl name.
Orange Bowl.
That one too. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not playing college football playoff. It doesn't really matter.
I see.
They're taking their talents to the next level, which, congrats to them. Knew they always should, and knew they were about to go earn themselves some big money. They did everything necessary, being undefeated, and still were unable to get a national championship. But, kudos to them for allowing themselves to get to that next opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of these players, if you heard what they said coming into the season, this shouldn't be a surprise at all. When Jared Verse talked about coming back, Jared Verse didn't say, I'm coming back so we can have a special season. I'm coming back so I can win award X, Y, and Z. I'm coming back so I can win ACC. He said, I'm coming back to win a national championship. And so with that off the table, it shouldn't be a surprise. Nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be in shock and awe. Like, oh, my God, I can't believe that these players are opting out in the way that they are. Because, at the end of the day, a lot of these players came back specifically for a national championship. With that off the table, that doesn't really, it doesn't really make sense for them to stay. Or for them to play in this game. They just don't really feel the need to. And plus, this game puts Florida State in an impossible lose-lose situation anyway. Because let's just say that all these guys had opted in, and, with all these guys opting in, they go and whoop the wheels off Georgia. Then what, right? Like, does the committee then say, oops, we got it wrong? Most likely not. And even if they did, what does that tangibly add? Like, very seriously, what do you get from the committee saying, hey, sorry, we just got this one wrong? Nothing. So,
and beyond that, if you lose, what do you gain? Because then everyone says, oh, well, see, this is why you weren't supposed to be invited, and you would potentially lose money if you're trying to get your name called in that top 10 or, beyond. So, yeah, I get it.
Exactly. And if you get hurt in the bowl game, like we've seen in the past with guys like I want to say it was Jalen Smith of Notre Dame, where one play cost that young man millions of dollars, and he just was never the same player again. And everybody says, "Oh, well, that's one example, and you can't use that one example." Well, let me ask you this: give me the one example of a player whose stock just went through the roof based on the fact that they messed around and played in the bowl game. If you got somebody, feel free to tell me, but I don't know of any. So with that in mind, I mean, that's just the reality that these teams are looking at. And I don't fault anybody. I don't blame anybody for making that choice of, hey, I'm going to sit this thing out because, I mean, that's just the reality. That's just the reality. That's just the situation. And obviously Florida State isn't the only team because there's other teams that are going to see plenty of guys sit out for draft reasons or because they're in the portal or whatever the case may be. It's the new nature of college football in essence.
Of all the guys that are deciding to go to the next level, who are you most excited to see?
Oh, that's a no-brainer for me. Jared Verse has been my guy all along, and I think this year a lot of people say that he wasn't the player that they expected him to be, or whatever the case may be. And I'll say this: he was double-teamed a ton. Number one, and number two, the reality is a great player affects the game positively in big moments, and that's what Jared Verse did as well as anybody else in the country in terms of defensive ends. You look at what he did in the ACC championship game; it was nothing short of spectacular. You look at what he did in the Florida game. Again, another game where he put on the big time performance. You look at where he was and what he did in the biggest moments where Florida State really needed somebody to step up and make a play. He did it every single time. So, while there are questions about, oh man, this year just wasn't quite what we were looking for from him or whatever, I'd simply say turn on the tape. Turn on the tape. And if you watch the tape and you say that he's not impressive enough, he's not special enough, that's fine by me. But I don't want people watching the box score and saying, well, he didn't quite put up the sack production numbers that we thought he would. Well, he didn't quite do enough of this or that in terms of statistically that we thought he would, because again, this is a special young man. He's going to go on to be somebody's bookend edge rusher for the next, 8 to 10 years minimum if he stays healthy. And more power to him. He deserves all the love that he gets in this draft process coming up because he's earned it.
1,000%. I honestly am excited to see Trey Benson only because he won't have to share the load as much, see what he can do as a, big time back, right? If he has the opportunity to go to the next level, it doesn't have to pass between him and Toafili in years before when he wasn't necessarily number one guy. So excited to kind of see how he can transpire to be that maybe RB1 when it's all said and done, even though the running back position isn't as loved on as we've seen in years past. But overall, happy for the guys. Do what you need to do for yourselves. Move on to greatness and do all the things. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, and here's the biggest thing that I get upset about when people talk about bowl game opt-outs, right? Mm-hmm. The reality is, why do you go to college, Candace?
For me?
Well, yeah, for anybody. Why does anybody go to college for the
well, in theory, you go to college to get an education. I'm sorry, your mic went out.
I'm sorry. Why do you get an education? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you get an education?
To help further advance career advancement.
And what does the further career advancement do?
Get you some money.
So if they have done the thing, right? If they have skipped some steps in the process, like whether or not they have their degree, which I'm sure a lot of these guys do, it's not the important part of the story. They won, right? There's no occupation that you can name that coming out is going to make as much as Jared Verse. Doctors got to do a residency and all that good stuff. Surgeons, all of them, they got to do that type of stuff. A lawyer, you got to go to law school for 3 years after undergrad to get this done. And even with them, in terms of what they make when they first start practicing, you're not touching what Jared Verse is going to touch. So he won. He did the thing. Benson, he did the thing. All these guys went along and did the thing to the point where it's like, dude, if you want to skip, go ahead and skip. The money is made. The hay is in the barn. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the bowl festivities. Go ahead, get your bowl gifts. But that's it. It's over. It's over. You know what I mean? And they could have played, and I wouldn't shun nobody for playing. I wouldn't say, oh, you a fool risking all those millions to play one last meaningless exhibition. If they felt like we want to go out there, hang 50 on these boys because that's, that would be our national championship, and we'll pull a UCF and print ourselves out or, make ourselves a national championship banner, get ourselves the ring, whatever, more power to them. But if they decide to sit out as well, I support these young men in their decision.
1,000% agreed there. Let's talk about our friends here at FanDuel. As we all know, it's that time of year where we want to make some money. We want to throw our hat in the ring when it comes to extending some of those big time deals. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. It's $150 if your team wins. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started today. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Kenton Gibbs, Candace Cooper here, rocking and rolling, talking through some major college football news. Not only do we have some some NFL draftees, but we have some transfer portal updates. We know the NC State is rocking in the portal, doing big things. Can't even be mad at you, but you guys are nabbing some local guys. Jordan Waters from Duke decided to take their talents to this team in Raleigh, which kudos to NC State for, rebuilding. And reloading, that's the phrase. Reloading, not rebuilding.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing to talk about here is there are tons of ACC schools that are absolutely crushing it in the portal. But with that being said, NC State is one of the top schools. Louisville is another one. That is, again, they're doing the things. They're having a great time in the portal, picking up a ton of quality players. And the reality is very simple. If you're looking around the conference and you're saying, well, hey, what teams are likely going to be contenders next year? Just look at these guys. Look at the list of players that are being picked up here by a multitude of schools, right? You talked about NC State picking up Grayson McCall as their QB1 for next year. The number 1 or 2, depending on what site you're looking at, tight end, and Justin Jolie. You talked about Jordan Waters, the running back that was third team All-ACC, that wanted to go right down the road. He probably doesn't even need to switch apartments if he doesn't want to, but that is going to be a long commute, brother. I'm telling you, I've taken that drive from Raleigh to Durham every day. That's neither here nor there. But again, you've got a ton of really quality players coming in there. And again, like I talked about with Louisville, that's another team that has just dudes on dudes on dudes coming in terms of Ja'Cory Brooks, Don Chaney, Isaiah Cummings. There is always going to be a market for, hey, this team is winning. I want to win more. I want to be a part of a team that's doing something special. And that's what it appears Brom is building. We were all taken a little aback by what, Brom did in year one. And so to see so many players who are absolute studs signing up to be Cardinals isn't too surprising.
Coach Brom up for the Steve Spurrier first-year coach award, one of the finalists there, which is not a surprise at all. But I guess from a recruiting standpoint, has it now become about transfers rather than actually bringing young men in and developing them and getting them better?
I think like all things in life, it's a balance. It's a balance. It isn't really about one or the other. It's about both. It's not about, how well you do. If we're talking about a relationship, it's not about how well you do the day-to-day stuff or how well you do the big grand events to make your partner happy. It's about both. It's same thing here. When you talk about building a team, you're going to have players who are built up in your system, who know the culture, who build in that way that it's like, hey, these are insert school here guys. These are Cardinals through and through, 4-year guys. These are Seminoles 4-year through guys. These are Wolfpackers. These are Tar Heels 4 years through. And you're also going to need, we have a hole here. We're doing almost everything well, but why would we not go get a Keon Coleman? We're doing most things well, but why would we not go get what's that young man's name? The safety, Cam Kelly. Why would we not go get a Cam Kelly? Why would we not go get a Jared Verse?
You could have kept the Cam Kelly. Go ahead.
You get the point. He looked like Sean Taylor reincarnated against NC State. So I got to get him at his mouth. But you get the point. There is, it's about both. I don't think that you can really sustain a program doing one or the other, because we've seen programs that have traditionally been great that have been really hesitant about going in a portal that have struggled. I'm looking at you, Clemson. I'm looking at you. It shouldn't take Tyler from Spartansburg to get y'all rolling. But anywho, that's the reality. You need both. And I think that we're starting to see that now where it's balancing out. If you look over at Colorado, right, 51 transfers in 1 year. And what happened? They struggled as a result of that many transfers. And it wasn't just about in the trenches. It was about the fact that they didn't have a lot of team cohesion and cohesiveness in terms of guys gelling and meshing together. People talk about how many transfers Florida State had. But as many transfers they had, they also had guys that were Florida State through and through. They also had a Kalen DeLoach, who was a Florida State guy through and through. They also had multiple players on that team that, hey, this guy has been here from day one to counteract, multiple guys from different programs coming in. You always want to have people who know your culture, know what your team's culture is, and they then in turn say, hey, you're talented, but this is our way of doing it. Let's get on the program and let's go win us a championship.
I definitely think there is a balance, because how you can develop a culture and have a team that is disciplined and understands they've been through the trenches together. There's different ways to battle with your brother. It's a whole different thing to battle with someone that you ate, ramen and PB&J with your freshman year, to now be, battling through the senior years with the NIL deals and all the flashes, versus someone who comes in, who came from NIL to get to your program and doesn't necessarily know about those get it out the mud stories that you've had with your brother. So there's a way to balance and connect that. If a coach does it right, it says main picture, same picture, that's getting a championship, getting an ACC champion, whatever it have you, is the ultimate goal. But I definitely think that there is a nice something to say about having that balance for sure.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. Again, you can't lean too hard one way or the other, because if you lean solely on player development, you are so heavily relying on, we didn't miss on anybody. Everybody that we recruited has to hit. Everybody we recruited has to be the guy, because we don't have any transfers. And if you're leaning on only transfers, what is your culture going to be? Who is your tone setter?
Miami.
Hello.
I'm looking at you.
Hold on now.
Because every year you're back, and yet somehow, some way.
But you get the point. You get the point. And there are multiple teams in the vein of Miami, because I know Miami fans finna come in here and call us everything but good Christmas, but you get the point. There are multiple teams that try year after
year. Pittsburgh, you might want to develop a quarterback. I don't know. You might want to develop a quarterback.
I'll tell you what, them boys up there can develop everything but that. I'll tell you what.
Somebody got to be answering for something, because at this point, every time you bring in a quarterback, they get worse and worse. The quarterback is getting worse.
No, stop it. They just had Kenny Pickett, who, he was amazing with his fake slide himself and whatnot.
And then they had who? Who did they have? Go ahead.
We don't got to talk about that.
Go ahead and say it. Who did
they have? Talk about that. See, and this how you do me.
That BYU, what's his name?
See, and this how you do me, because I'm trying to say good things about Pittsburgh, because I'm trying to get on Pittsburgh fans' good graces, because they swear I hate him because I said Kenny Pickett wasn't the first round pick. And lo and behold, every time I try
Mason Rudolph over him. So yeah, he's staying.
See, this is every time I try to say something. Y'all see this, Pittsburgh fan? Now Panthers fans, don't say nothing to me. Peninsula P and Company, don't say nothing to me. I'm trying to be nice. I try to give y'all credit. That's candy. That's all good. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Who was after Kenny Pickett?
Going in.
Stop. Who was after Kenny Pickett?
It was Keaton Slovis.
Yeah, terrible. Who was after Keaton?
It was the quarterback from Notre Dame and then Boston College, Phil Jakovic.
Mm-hmm.
It was Phil Jakovic.
Yeah.
And then after Jakovic, it was Villieu. Or
Villieu?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Villieu. Mm-hmm. I believe it was. Yeah.
Ain't got it right since.
Listen. You ain't got to bring that up. You ain't got to bring that up. You ain't got to and see, y'all say that I hate the Coastal so much. That's the last Coastal team to ever win the ACC championship. And y'all see how Kansas doing you. So don't say I hate y'all. Don't say that.
Help the church, Lord. All right, everybody. As we know that every day when you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the right tool to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Go to LinkedIn because it's not just another job board. It has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. We're landing this plane here, Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack joining each and every day. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you check out all of our friends here at Locked On Podcast Network, especially our ACC teams. They do big things on their respective local expert shows. Now, as we know, signing day is going to be huge. So, again, we talk about our local experts. They got the ins and outs, the X's and O's, the details, all the stars, all the reviews, and more so what the person who they're going to be signing brings to that program. So, highly recommend you check them out. But we've got some rankings when it comes to our signing day, and we'd be remiss if we didn't share it with the group. Now, if you're assuming that your team is number one, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but the top signing day team here in the ACC would be Florida State. Mike Norvell doing big things, keeping it rolling.
Yep, the Seminoles are one of 2 ACC teams to nab multiple 5 stars according to 24/7 Sports. And, this is a team that, again, they're building off an amazing year. And you talk about the mix of recruiting and the portal. Think about this. Number 1 recruiting class in the ACC, and you're right now into the thick of it, as they say, with Cam Ward. And him in Miami. You don't know which way this thing is going to go, but that's a major sweepstakes right there in which somebody's going to get the award of Cam Ward being your QB1 for next season.
Got it. And I'm still learning the 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. Because honestly, if my son was Johnny and I felt like he was the best, and like somebody was recruiting him, and I was like, "Hey, I'm paying you $500. Tell me Johnny's a 5-star." How does that work? That don't work. Okay.
No.
I was making sure. Sure.
The national guys who put the stars up. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Most of the folks who do the recruiting and following do dirt poor, but the guys who get to rank the 5 stars and follow around the big names. They're making a little, Tom Luganville and company, they ain't hurt. They ain't hurting. I'll leave it at that.
Heard you. Miami coming in at number 2. As you mentioned, there's some battles for getting top players. And Miami always has good classes. That never is Miami's problem. It's what they do when they get there that seems to be the difficulty. And as they are still trying to find themselves at an ACC championship, let alone in the college football playoff conversation, the shot gets bigger as 12 teams are now in the conversation. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see that from the Canes. Clemson at number 3. Listen, you buy into that culture, that loyalty. It's not hard to see, even despite the fact they had a quote-unquote down year. Clemson is still one of the best in the business.
Absolutely. They're the 2nd team in the ACC to get multiple 5 stars to their school. And again, Clemson is the school that, with all due respect, the future is now, old man. Get with the times. Hey, these are great recruiting classes. Dabo has a penchant for, getting his guys and landing big-time guys for their program. And so this is another class that appears to be one that could be special for Clemson going forward.
1,000%. North Carolina coming in at number 4 for the ACC in terms of signing day rankings. North Carolina, once again, starting to get that Miami vibe. You can bring as many good people as you want to. You can sell a bill of goods, but can you get it done on the football field? And it's crazy to think that Coach Gene Chizik is saying to everyone, well, I would love to retain my job, but we'll see after the bowl game how it goes. That's promising for signees. Real promising.
Yeah. I mean, the name of the game for both Miami and UNC is a very similar one in player development. You can get great players to campus. Good. Do they leave as the same player they were when they were 18?
Ciao.
Because if they do, guess what's happening in reality? They're regressing. So the big thing for them, player development, how are you doing it? Getting those guys to kind of grow into what they should be. But even with that, this is still a UNC team that puts plenty of players in the league, that has plenty of players doing good things. I mean, Sam Howell is a starting quarterback right now, and you've got multiple other guys in the league as well from North Carolina who are doing good things. So Yes, the player development has been lacking. However, semicolon, comma, but they're still finding ways to get things done.
Absolutely. Let's talk about NC State coming in at number 5. Again, we've had high praise for NC State. Shout out to our Thundercats. Let's show our Thundercats some love because they had a nice little signing day video. They're the cutest. Shout out to Coach Thunder and the guys.
They did. For those of you who don't know, Coach Thunder is the head strength and conditioning coach at NC State. And when you think of NC State, you think of him because player development is what they're on about. And that's what they've been, talking about there for years in terms of one of the best teams in the nation in terms of the amount of 3-stars that they've turned into first-round picks or draft picks altogether. But here's the big thing. This is most likely, because of a flip from UNC, going to be NC State's highest-rated recruiting class ever under Dorn. And so with that in mind, the last time they had a recruiting class of this magnitude, that's when they started this stretch of winning 9 games or so per season. And so you throw in what they've done in the portal with that type of class, you could be looking at, something serious being woken up in Raleigh.
Well, you know what happens when you give NC State expectations. They squat the bed. Let's just keep it under the radar for now.
Y'all are going to be terrible. You're going to win 1 game next year.
There we go. Stanford coming in at number 6. Hey, welcome to the ACC party. Stanford team that haven't won how many games? 4, maybe?
Here's the flabbergasting thing about this situation. If somebody would have told me after this season, when the ACC championship game was coming up, Kenton, the Cardinals will be 6th in the ACC in recruiting, I'd say, really? Louisville at number 6? That's kind of insane. And if they would have looked at me and said, nope, wrong Cardinals, brother, I would have said, you get out of here. Don't you stop telling them lies. You get off them drugs. Get up off of the cocaine. Stop it. That ain't no good for you. And lo and behold, the Stanford Cardinals actually have put together a very good recruiting class, which is surprising to say the least. Again, it's surprising to say the least given their academic rigor, given their kind of situation in terms of conference, and the fact that they're going to be playing a lot of their games on the other side of the country from where they are. But here we are nonetheless.
We will have a part 2 to the signing day. As we know, we're going to talk through the actual players, the good, the bad, the ugly. What does it actually mean? What do the stars actually mean? Did these programs get better with the holes that we saw from last season? We'll have all of those conversations as well as some bowl talk. We got Syracuse, the first one on deck. They'll be playing on the 21st against South Florida. So we'll talk about that game and as we get excited for it. There are many things as bowl season is upon us for your various schools around the ACC that we can get really, happy for and get ready for what should be a good Orange Bowl ultimately, as we mentioned earlier in the show. But there could be more portal news. There could be more updates. We just can't wait to update you guys on that. And as you know, it still very much is basketball season, so we have to give you some of that too. Make sure you check out all of that here at Locked On ACC Podcast for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Until next time.